I hope you're having a good day on this chilly but beautiful day outside. Unfortunately, it seems that Jesus got up on the wrong side of the bed today when you hear this gospel. It's not just a little disconcerting for us to hear it, but the last line of the story kind of sums it up a bit when he says he knew human nature very well. He understood it because, well, he himself was human and divine. So he knew human nature very well. And so to know human nature is to know that, at times we can get angry. I'm sure we all know maybe one person that, you never, ever, ever have seen angry, which, in one sense is a virtue, but there are certain things that, we can legitimately, righteously get angry about it. So Jesus knew human nature, and so even on a beautiful day like this, that's the theme of the gospel today. And this gospel is one of the few gospels, stories, that is repeated in all four gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So, like the parable of the multiplication of the loaves and the fishes. So, the scripture scholars and the people, the gospel writers, knew that this was a very significant time when Jesus challenged the temple authorities. And so the theme is legitimate anger. And speaking about anger, I was reading a review of a book that just came out, written by a person named Janice Dean, who has a lot of reasons to be angry because she lost both her mother-in-law and her father-in-law due to the nursing home COVID regulations that were put in place back in the spring for New York State. So Janice Dean was one of the first to go public about the nursing home situation because it led to the death of her in-laws. And she got a lot of attention about that way back then because she is a well-known TV weather forecaster, meteorologist. And although she's got a right to be legitimately angry, her book, though, is about inspiring stories of people finding light in dark times. And it's entitled "Make Your Own Sunshine." So she uses weather metaphors to connect to the situation at the moment. There's no mention of the nursing home deaths in her book, but her experiences and her anger at what happened led her to look for inspiring stories amid the pandemic. And don't we all have to try to do that in our own ways? She also has lots of reasons to be angry at God as well as the state because she suffers from MS. And she wrote another book a little while ago entitled "Mostly Sunny: How I Learned to Keep Smiling Through the Rainiest of Days." So when you think about it, sometimes we have to make our own sunshine, even though we can feel very angry as a hurricane or a typhoon. In today's first reading from Exodus, we hear the commandments, and of course one of the commandments is, "You shall not kill." But it doesn't say, "Thou shalt not get angry." Obviously, it's not healthy to stay angry, to become an overall angry person, but it is just and proper at times to get angry at legitimately bad situations. And that's what we see happening in this gospel today. Jesus gets angry. Interesting, at this very moment, Pope Francis is in war-torn Iraq, and his advisors told him not to go because it's a very dangerous journey. He could get killed over there. A few years ago, he was on a much safer pastoral visit, that time to Mexico, where he got very angry, publicly and dramatically, when a man reached out behind a row of a bank of wheelchairs to shake the Pope's hand, and the guy who shook his hand pulled the Pope forward, causing him to fall onto a woman in a wheelchair. And so Pope Francis was visibly angry, and he yelled at the man. And of course, as you might expect, the media loved that image of the Pope, and they dubbed it in their titles, in their headlines, "Pope angry, Francis yells, holy hell." Well, should he not care? Should he have been like a robot and just bounce on to the next person? He got angry because he's human. He got angry because he cares and he cared about the woman in the wheelchair who he fell on. He got angry because it was justifiable. All of us have been angry at times. We've had moments when we wanted to strike back or shout down or lash out and tear apart someone else or some group of people. We've been angered by constant disappointments and continued incompetence and unrelenting criticism, and especially over the past 12 months, almost exactly 12 months, coming up in the next week or so of the pandemic. The shutdowns, everything happening in our country, bad news in the church, so many things that we have very legitimate reasons to be upset, disappointed, and angry at. But our anger can take one of two directions. It can be either bad anger or good anger. Bad anger can lead us, just right into ourselves. We shut ourselves off from whatever or whoever makes us angry. We build up walls, bridges are destroyed, and reconciliation is out of the question. Bad anger is this sort of out-of-control rage, this fire of emotions that can move people to do great harm and evil and sin, often greater than the cause of the anger in the first place, as it seeks to intentionally to harm those who hurt us. But good anger takes us outside of ourselves to find light in bad times and to make our own sunshine even in the midst of the darkness. Good anger, you might say, emboldens us to face injustice, to address injustice, to confront wrong and those who do wrong, and to take on whatever hurts or diminishes ourselves or other people. And very often, good anger knows the consequences of a challenge and going public, but it always opens a path to reconciliation. It cries for healing and making things better again, and really bringing new life, bringing resurrection to the situation that we're facing. So like Jesus, in this gospel today, we must act not in anger, but out of anger at times. And his outburst is a little disconcerting, especially on a beautiful day like this, but it's the kind of anger that can lead to change and transformation. He's outraged at the desecration of the temple, and more so at the people there cheating the poor by the merchants and the religious authorities of the day. And so his anger restores the temple to its purpose, even if it's just for that particular day. Maybe people went back the next day to their usual mode of operating, but it was meant to bring justice to the poor there who were victimized both by the vendors and the money changers in the name of religion. And so, we all know, his actions, this was one of the critical things that cost him dearly and led him to the cross. So Lent is a time for us to invite the holy anger of Jesus in today's gospel into the various temples of our world and our lives. So we're challenged to drive out, to sweep out that which is not representative of our Christian values, even and especially in the temple of the church. And we all know the situations that we have faced. We need to drive out that which is not loving in the temple of our family, the temple, the home, the families that we come in, to drive out, to allow that constructive criticism to point out what's not good and to purify, even in the family. We need to drive out corruption that doesn't contribute to the common good in the temple of our government. And we need to drive out anything that is not forgiving and merciful and loving in the temple of our own hearts. So this Sunday, the gospel is very dramatic, and in one sense simple, as a reminder as a call to action that we occasionally need to clean house. And that's what Lent is about. That's what the spring cleaning of Lent is supposed to be about for us, to look at what we need to purify, what we need to try to make better in our hearts, in the church, in our government, in our families, in the workplace. And so if we're engaged in anything that is a distraction, that separates us from God, from the work of God, then we need to try to get rid of it, to get back on track, to use the commandments as our fundamental baseline. And in the words of that book, to make our own sunshine, even on our rainiest days, to find light, to be light in bad times, both inside and outside the temple.